A 267 Daisy. I don't think I'm making it out of this one. Well, that was weird. Welcome back to the Nick Adam Humphreys channel. How you doing? How you doing? Come on in and sit on down, because today we're talking about Digital Circus. I think I'm a small enough creator that I can steal the Papa Meat intro. I'm addicted to YouTube Shorts. And in being addicted to YouTube Shorts, I have seen so much for the Amazing Digital Circus.
We're literally having a sleepover with Jackson Paul.
My brain hurts from watching so many YouTube Shorts and having no context. And a buddy reached out to me with an extra ticket to the Glitch pop-up shop in New York tomorrow, right here. Right. I might make a short out of it. I might make a video, and if I do, it's right here. I figured it's probably time that I actually dive into the Amazing Digital Circus, which I've been putting off for a long time, especially as somebody that does this. Amount of Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared content that I've made, and being a voice actor on the side. It's one of the things that I should have looked at, and I didn't look at it, but I'm looking at it now. I binge watched it. There's only 8 episodes. I dove in. The finale is coming out on June 4th. I was like, that's pretty close. It just seems like the perfect time to just jump in. Might I add that Liminal Space and analog horror fans are eating good right now. Between the Amazing Digital Circus, the Backrooms movie that's coming out, and the Exit 8 movie, I was like, we are feasting. We are kings. I just binge watched all 8 episodes back to back. And here are my thoughts. The first episode, I struggled to watch. I get it. It's indie. It's small team. It's good. I just struggled to watch it because the animation got me a little bit. I'm sorry. It was a bit of a hard sell for me to be a really big fan of the animation style in the first couple of episodes. I think after episode 3, it really grew on me, and then I was a bigger fan of the animation. I'd also only seen clips of some of the more action-packed moments, and cool. I enjoyed it. I do think, though, there's some merit to saying that the expectation that's built up through like YouTube Shorts and like something like this show that is so heavily featured in meme culture right now and just fandom in general, it's hard to live up to an expectation that is as grand as it is, especially with fans being as dedicated as they are. Also, someone that went into Has Been Hotel a little bit late, not to compare the two too much. They're very different shows, but it is crazy to not recognize the overlap of fans of these two productions, and also being small like YouTube indie projects that have made it into the mainstream. I feel like I got a very different experience with this show binging it and not experiencing it episodically. It almost does it a disservice to binge in the same sense of watching One Piece. If you watch One Piece, there's a lot of like recapping, a lot of filler. This show falls victim to the same sort of mentality. You're not getting necessarily as long of flashbacks, but I feel like characters are repeating the same things quite a lot, and that's fine. I'll also preface this saying I am also a writer. I do write, though I will say I mostly write comedy. I write sketch comedy. I've performed with Second City. I've done a main stage review. Look at me. Oh, yay. But I can speak on someone that has a lot of writer training, specifically in comedy, which I argue this show falls into quite a lot. And one of the big things for me is the character, and the character development is one of the weaker points in the show until the latter half. You have 8 episodes to get invested into this world, the mechanics of this world, how it functions, and then to enjoy all of these characters. And you have a fairly large cast of characters while also keeping the mystery. Like Gravity Falls is one of those shows that you remember for the mystery of it all, but it was episodic with an entirely huge budget. I do want to mention that we will be getting into a little bit of spoiler territory in this video, so if you haven't caught up to episode 8, maybe hold off for just a second. This is me just giving my honest opinion as someone who is joining the fandom late. One of the parts of the series that I guess I disagree with a lot of fans on is just the character of Kane in general. I found that there was a lot of build up to fearing him as an entity. I feel like there was a lot of buildup into distrusting this character until the last 2 episodes. It wasn't really warranted, and because of that, it just kind of builds up that I was not surprised at all with how episode 8 went. But the character of Kane, I feel like, was fleshed out as much as he was going to be pretty much in the pilot episode, and I don't think that he grew very much. I feel like we did get the character development that we needed out of Kane from the therapy moments with Zubul. I thought that was really, really strong, and I was so happy that we got to kind of dive in a little bit more. That's like, no, Kane is a little bit more human than you would expect from an AI, and I do love that. I don't think that he needs to be like a deeply emotional, deep dive into the human psyche. I think that there's a lot of crossover. If you are looking at Has Been Hotel, just feel like there's a lot of similarities between Kane and Vox. If we want to talk about that, I'll happily dive into the comment section to talk about similarities of characters. Help me lock in for a second. Punch me. My thought with Kane, I think that he was one of the best developed characters throughout the 8 episodes that we got, but I feel like there was a lot of people that seemed surprised by the change at the end of episode 7 into episode 8 that he had, his like mental breakdown, his mentee B. I wasn't surprised by that. I feel like they were talking about it the entire show. And this is one of the issues that I have with it, where I just wasn't able to immerse myself in the show as much as I had hoped I would. The characters of the circus, there's a lot of mystery about it, and it should be. This ultimately is kind of a whodunit story in its own right, and I like that. But I feel like we could have gotten a little bit more of a reason to fear Kane early on, because there was a lot of moments throughout the series where it's like, hey, let's not talk about this where he can hear. Hey, let's not talk about this in front of him. Let's not involve Kane. But at the same time, they made a point throughout the entire series to be like, he doesn't even listen to us. He doesn't care. He doesn't process what we're saying. So it felt conflicting in that regard, that I was like, why are we afraid of him? Why do we not trust it? And it didn't feel like it was part of the mystery intentionally. I don't know. I'm giving my opinion of how I felt going through this as someone that just watches a lot of animation and just has a lot of opinions. I have a lot of opinions. I'm also I'm not an avid hater on this show, but in general, I'm a tough customer sometimes. I genuinely like this show. These are just a couple of things that I was like, at the end of episode 8, when he got deleted, I went, hell yeah. I was happy. I haven't grown to care for this character. And I do hope that in this hour-long finale, we get a little bit more of an explanation, a little bit more the whole process of Kane, which I would be excited for. That, and I want to know more about the bubbles. I think we're going to. I think that the major plot point in the finale is going to be the bubbles. I genuinely think the bubbles are going to be the other AI that we needed to pay attention to the entire time. I think that the bubbles are going to be the answer to the entire story. And it could just be me. It could just be me being pessimistic, but I feel like there's a lot of questions in every episode just for the sake of having questions. And on that, there's also just character development things that I would just like more of, that I feel like we've had enough time throughout the episodes to get more of. One of the specific things that I take issue with, and I say that like it's a negative. This isn't a negative. I'm just airing out my thoughts. I'm not satisfied with Pomni as a character. And that's not saying like voice acting, design, or anything. I think design, voice acting is great. I feel like Pomni is one of the reasons that a lot of people get into this show via memes, YouTube shorts, or certain content that some people like to find on the internet, in which some of these characters have been depicted in less than friendly manner. If you catch my drift. You catch it? You drifting? Our grounding in reality is Pomni as the person that we can latch onto and relate to as we explore this world. But I feel like we're not getting much. And I know that there's a lot of like, well, you don't have your memories. Yeah, we're supposed to care about the characters, and I want to care a little bit more, and the way that we can really care about characters through relationship. This is also me being a Second City trained person. Second City and their writing training is all about character relationships and less about like, hey, this game is funny, hey, this world building is cool, this premise is cool. The only way to make people care is through a genuine relationship, like a grounded relationship. And I do think that Pomni has the most grounded relationships with other characters, but I don't know who she is enough to really care about her, which is interesting because then we have characters that I do really care about, that I do feel like their relationships are fleshed out. Like Kinger is hands down my favorite character, and I think he's supposed to be, because I genuinely believe that Kinger is the heart of the entire story. I know that Pomni is the one that we're supposed to relate to, but I think that Kinger is the crux of the story. I think that we're supposed to focus on Kinger and we're supposed to focus on Jax. I don't know why we're supposed to focus on Jax yet. I do think that Kinger's growth and backstory is what hooked me. A lot of the episode, you're getting the same information from these characters over and over again, which is fine if you're spending like 3 months before you watch the next episode. Then it's like, well, 100%, I don't really remember what was happening. But as someone that's marathoning it, it just felt like, okay, I know this already. Can you stop telling? I have a brain. I swear, I have a brain. I can remember the information. I can remember that Jax is sad about losing his friends without getting a flashback of him being sad about losing his friends. I feel like some of the writing doesn't trust the audience to remember or to care about the show enough to remember. There's a lot of repetition, and in that repetition, we don't get as much character depth. If you're marathoning it, I feel like it kind of can take you out of it, and I was a little bit taken out. I think that the adventures are fun. I wish that they had a little bit more of a reason to exist. In a couple episodes, I was waiting for the adventure to be over so that we could decompress and we could learn what the character growth was. Could have happened a little bit more inside the adventure, which it did. Like the scary one with Pomni and Kinger, where they really figured out like, oh dang, Kinger is like smart, builds up for later. And I think that was really, really well done. And I like the exploration of NPCs and Pomni in the Candy Crush, in the Sugar Rush world. Gangle and Ragatha, we just are not getting a lot of development from. I want to explore Gangle a little bit more. I get is like, she likes anime. She's sad and she likes anime. Like exactly what Jax had said, these characters have fallen into this archetype and that has become who they are. I can see that, but as an audience member, I want to know more. I want to know more, which is also telling that I like this. I like this story. I like this premise. I like these characters. And I feel like I'm critical because we only have one more episode. Even in the hour, I'm hesitant that we'll be able to really see everything. And I only care like that. I'm only, in any sense of the word, upset because I want more. Because I think that this is really well done and that we could see more. It's cool to see like the animation develop from episode 1 through episode 8 and to see how it looks better and to know that this is like an Australian independent company that is now moved to like a Netflix. Like the amount of celebration that we should give towards Gooseworks and Glitch, especially in this day and age with what it's talking about with like AI, with corporations and this conversation, this ongoing conversation to an extent we're getting tired out on, not through media like this. I feel like media like this show really handles it well. Everyday conversation, it's becoming noise. How much we talk about corporations are bad and AI is bad. And it's like, yes, but the way that we talk about it is just noise. It's like watching ads on YouTube. You start to tone it out and just know that in 7 seconds and 5 seconds I get to skip. So I feel like a show like this is taking these concepts that we're hearing about, that we're talking about all the time, and actually giving you a space to explore it and to think about it a little bit deeper through having a fun medium to explore these concepts that we have to deal with in everyday life. And on top of that, in the corporation debate, I think that so much credit needs to be given to Glitch and Gooseworks that are breaking through to mainstream and showing these massive corporations that people don't just want the same slop as much as they want to push like AI and these like Netflix originals, which some of them are great. Some of them are great. I'll admit it. It's a guilty pleasure. I liked Adam Sandler and Leo. Thank you, Netflix, for Leo and for K-pop Demon Hunters. But you know, that one kind of falls into the same story a little bit. Thank you for K-pop Demon Hunters. I wish we had the 4-hour version. Thanks for the McDonald's meal though. I love the McDonald's meal. I feel like we're seeing a resurgence of artists making things and corporations being like, oh my God, you know how to make it. As an actor who kind of pays attention to the trends in the industry, I feel like this is something that we see every like 10 years-ish, maybe give or take, where we see these massive like production companies and corporations that get a bit of an ego because a few productions have worked out and they decide, wait a minute, I know I'm in this for finance and business, but I think that I should determine what the next artistic endeavor is. And they keep making that until the public is tired of it. And eventually they're like, man, our sales are so far down. What do we do? And then we have an independent artist or a someone who wrote their own script come in that gets to pitch it, because these corporations have hit a moment where they're like, fine, we'll try anything. And then they let people kind of speak up, and artists get to make the art again. And then they make that become mainstream until they get a big ego. And then they go, wait a minute, we've been producing these things that are so good that they forget that it's working because they have artists that are communicating directly through the medium with the audience, with people. And then corporate heads think that they're the ones in charge again, that think that they're the ones that created the art. And then they try to take it over. And then you get a cycle of corporate greed taking over, and then artists being let back in, and then artists being kicked out, and then artists being let back in. Finally back into a moment where artists are kind of being let back into their own industry again. And I think that it's beautiful the way that it's happening, and it needs to be a fight. It should not just be expected to come back. I think that it's beautiful that it's happening with the people like Glitch and Gooseworks and the Vivzy Pop Markiplier with Iron Lung, independent and smaller projects being able to break through, because that's what people want. People want art that's made for people, and I think this show is a great example of art that's made for people, that's speaking to people. And even if I have my criticisms, at the end of the day, it is a beautiful thing that should be celebrated, and I'm excited to go to the pop-up shop tomorrow, and I'm excited to go to the movie theaters and see the finale, episode 8 and episode 9. I'm gonna go somewhere and see it with a buddy that we've been talking about this show for the last 2 days, as I have been prepping to binge it and then binging it, and then we talked about what we loved and didn't love about the show, because we're having a discussion. That's the important thing. We're talking about this. What they have created is such a beautiful thing that it is bringing people together, and humanity is coming together for something, which especially right now, I feel like we just need. Put me in the digital circus, damn it. Ultimately, I think there's nothing but positives. That's it.